Jump Force can be best summarized by the word disappointing. Not to say that everything is bad about the title, but there are a lot of things that I definitely think could have used some work. I'm gonna just kind of get some of the technical stuff out of the way because I've been told that, for the most part, Japanese developers are not particularly focused when it comes to PC releases. So, what do? On my first playthrough of the game, I just wanted to see how mouse and keyboard controls would work, or if they even have them. The issue that this game has is similar to the initial release of Dark Souls, in that it does not have any keyboard prompts on screen. They are all controller prompts. And when I tried to change this upon first getting into the game, there was no way to access the options menu when you pause the game. So I had to basically go through the tutorial, randomly hitting buttons on the keyboard, hoping I would figure out what's going on. And when I could eventually get to the options menu after beating the tutorial by plugging a controller in, I checked the options, and the only thing you have for key bindings is not keyboard prompts to actions in the game, but it's keyboard prompts to controller buttons. So it's not, oh, bind the jump action to the spacebar, it's bind the spacebar to A, which just so happens to be jump. I don't know why they thought this was a good idea, but again, it's made to be played with a controller, and most of the gaming market in Japan is going to be focused on consoles. But I'm willing to let some of that slide because there's other factors. I'll say this, graphically, this game is very impressive, for the most part. I think I need to make a delineation between a few different things. When it comes to particle effects and textures, that's really where this shines. The environments and the character models are all very highly detailed, and most of the effects when you're fighting are all very flashy and explosive, and that's wonderful. However, the issues come into play when we're talking specifically about animations. If you look at any of the cutscenes that are playing in the background, it doesn't look like they're actually the characters. It looks more like they're action figures that someone is moving around. It's not to say that they're completely stiff as much as they don't really change their facial expression very much. Goku just looks perpetually angry in every single scene that he's in. Even if he's being kind and jovial, he's always mad, no matter what. Now, this isn't necessarily the biggest problem as much as it just makes it look cheap, especially because some of the other animations when it comes to the specials or the combos are very flashy and very expressive when it comes to the actual chains of attacks and the special attacks. Most of the other ones are a little bit more limited, but we'll get into that later. The game is focused on this hub area, where you choose what mode of play that you want to do by walking to these various platforms. What this means is you don't select multiplayer from the main menu. From the main menu, you select a profile, and then you're in the hub world. Then you have to select offline or online battle and go from there. This isn't an inherently bad system as much as I would have probably preferred a regular menu, because it means that depending on where the game feels like spawning me, I'd have to walk across the hub world just to be able to play a game with some of my friends. On the topic of the hub world, the main purpose of this is to have missions, talk to characters, explore, and to get items to help customize your OC character. And the main thing I would say in contention of this is that you can't actually customize the colors on the items that you have. The only option you have is to purchase the same item but in a different color from the shop. And the main reason I'm not into this is because there's sometimes a limited selection of colors available for these, and nothing really helps more when you're playing online and looking at other random people than being able to customize your kit. And color is pretty efficient, because otherwise everyone's going to be looking and wearing the same coat. But I'll say all this, those are all things that we could say are tertiary to what actually matters. The gameplay. How is it? Well, I would best describe this as equivalent to what you'd see in the Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm series of games, but not quite as polished. It's not to say that it's without merit or that this game doesn't do anything better than those games. It's just that if I compare them both side by side, I personally feel like those games in the Ultimate Ninja Storm series do many things better from a gameplay perspective and even as a game as a whole. Gameplay basically boils down to this. You have a few melee combos, and these aren't like fighting game combos in the sense of being able to actually put in directional inputs. You basically mash a button, you mash a button while holding up, or you mash a button while holding down. And then you have 3 specials and then an ultimate, as well as a transformation state that you can use with this. There's also dodges and evades and perfect dodges that you mix in with this, as well as assists and changing out people to create combos. So there is depth, and it's not to say that it isn't skill-based, because you absolutely can dominate if you are good enough at using the various skills that the game presents in front of you, especially when it comes to high-speed dodges. In the simplest of terms, if you hit the dodge button at the exact moment before an opponent is about to hit you, you will dodge behind them and leave an opening for an attack. But, to my knowledge, there is not really a cap on this. There's not a highest number of times that this can happen, and you can do this even if someone does it to you. So, you're about to punch someone, they teleport out of the way, and they're about to hit you in the back of the head, you can dodge their punch, and you can literally do this multiple times, like 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a row, and never hit each other. As long as you're persistent and patient, and have good timing, of course, then you'll always have an opening to not get hit by this. Now, one thing I would emphasize on this is, this game is somewhat lacking in polish in the gameplay department. Not that these systems aren't well thought out, but some of them just do not work as advertised. One that I encountered fairly consistently is when you're attacking someone and they're blocking, it doesn't negate damage as much as just, reduce it to extremely small amounts. And the way you get out of this is either by charging a regular attack, using a charged heavy attack, or by grabbing them. The issue that this has is, from time to time, your grab will literally go through the character and go behind them and won't result in a grab. So you'll have someone who is sitting there with their shield up, you'll hit grab, you'll whiff behind their head, and that will leave you completely open for them to start attacking you. And it's not to say that I want this game not to have whiffable moves or opportunities to punish, but if I'm standing right in front of somebody and I hit the grab move, I don't see why that should result in me missing the grab. It's pretty simple. So this kind of leaves open a lot of room for abuse when it comes to turtling up, because it would be a really safe strategy for you to just hold down the block button, wait for them to whiff on a grab, and then you can use a super or use a combo or any number of things, and you can get a lot of room out of this. There's not a lot of ample opportunities to break out of this, with the exception of the perfect dodge, which again is spotty at best when it comes to actually pulling it off. The only time I was able to see it performed consistently was by the computer characters. And I'll say this, there are a lot of really enjoyable cathartic moments. When you pull off an ultimate, it's really flashy and it's really cool. Being able to pull off your moves is pretty great. But the issue that we come across in this game is that if you don't have the polish to keep it consistent mechanically, it can kind of make it draining when it comes to actually playing extended matches with people. And the reason why I bring up extended match with people instead of discussing the story more or discussing the campaign more is because you only go through the campaign once, and after that the longevity of this game is going to be based almost entirely on the multiplayer scene and on the meta that is developed from this. And so far as I can see, pretty much everyone has discounted the campaign. Mainly myself. There might be some people who love it, but between the really stiff animations and the completely nonsensical story, and not even nonsensical in a way that I can thoroughly enjoy, but just nonsensical in the sense of anime is happening and I guess I'm here. Yeah, that's the thing that kind of will sink this game, in my opinion. The mere fact that the level of polish when it comes to things that are important for this game, specifically gameplay, animation, stuff like that, is lacking, is not ideal for longevity. Mind you, I'm not a fighting game expert. I don't even consider myself an anime expert. I don't know where about a good quarter of the characters in this game come from in the first place. So, when it comes to my opinion on this, just consider this my impressions. Specifically because I have not climbed very high when it comes to the rankings in multiplayer. I have not finished the campaign, and I've only played this about, I want to say, 6-8 hours total. Not long enough to beat the campaign or consider it, like, in-depth. But that's sort of the conclusion, because I will compare some of this to what we see specifically in Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 3 Full Burst Alpha Edition, Arcade Edition, EX Anniversary Game of the Year mode. Here's one thing that I want to detail. This is something that I should not be criticizing in something like this. Just look at some of the animations in this fight. It's not to say that there's animations that are lacking in Jump Force, but they're so much more expressive in this game. Specifically, Might Guy is a perfect example of this. We're talking about a range of facial animations, extremely clear fighting set that you can distinctly tell is him, even if they were completely silhouetted, as an example, just, so you can make it harder to tell who they are. His personality shines through a lot more than most of the characters in Jump Force. To be completely frank, a lot of the personality that you see in the characters in Jump Force comes through in their super moves, as opposed to just their regular moveset. The fact that most characters don't really move their faces as much is one thing that can kind of affect this. And let's just disregard the faces too, because, maybe that's just something that I'm focusing on too much. You're not looking at your character's face the whole time, you're looking at your body, they're looking at the way that they move and everything else. So, let's specifically use another character in this. We're going to be looking at Toby, also from this game. Look at the way he runs and moves. It's so much more detailed, so much more expressive. Again, you can immediately tell who it is when we're talking about this. Jump Force, when it comes to their individual animations, most of them kind of just move the same. I'm not saying that everyone needs to have a silly walk cycle or something, but when it comes to how you can differentiate your characters, unless it's literally a matter of oh, well, this guy's 4 feet taller than the other one, it's not something that you can really say is well thought out or well executed. Because I feel like, in the case of Jump Force, they were focusing mainly on these sort of cutscene-esque supers and ultimates, and then making sure that they had a lot of good textures, as opposed to kind of putting in the legwork for the rest of it. And I guess that's the thing I'm saying shouldn't necessarily need to be criticized. I shouldn't be looking at a game from 2019 with a much bigger budget, presumably, and a bigger crew comparatively, than what we have with the Naruto games and just say, hey, be on par with them. That's about all I was asking, because the gameplay that you have in the Naruto games is, frankly, slightly more limited. In this case, you have the same sort of attack chain in that, you mash the attack button, or you hold up, or you hold down. In this case, you have one super and one ultimate. You don't have the option of 3 like you do in this, as well as a few other options that just aren't quite present when it comes to the amount of options for dodging and blocking comparatively. So, on the basis of options you have, you can consider it an inferior game, but when it comes to just game feel, whether it be gameplay or graphics or animations, everything is just on a higher level. And look at when this game came out. Look, I'm gonna be frank, I'm not a One Piece fan, but Marshall D. Teach has one of the worst looking character models in the whole game. If you look at cutscenes, literally his lips just kind of vibrate up and down. He never closes his mouth, he never purses his lips, nothing to that effect. It looks so dumb, and if that's how he is in the show, fair enough, but it just really was one of the... He just looks dead inside. from his beady little eyes that never move to his mouth that never closes, it just looks really off-putting and really unnatural, especially for the kind of photorealistic way they were going for this. I mean, they gave Frieza fucking individual teeth, for fuck's sake. I know he has teeth in the show, but usually it's like that anime thing where it's all like one white line. Like in this one, they have like individual, like highly detailed teeth. It's just weird. But I don't want to end this on a negative note, so I'm going to give you guys some recommendations for other sort of high-octane action games I feel will kind of scratch the itch that this game may present you with its trailers and with its really good-looking ultimates, but may fall flat on. First one is the game I just mentioned, Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm. Pretty much any of the Ninja Storm games are pretty good, but the third and fourth ones particularly are very, very well executed. I mean, it's just got a ton of characters, a really, really well executed story mode in both of them, really good gameplay, just graphically fantastic. I couldn't recommend them higher. And that's coming from someone who's not a Naruto fan. I never watched the show very much because I never liked it. I didn't read the manga because I didn't like the show. But I picked up this game specifically because it was from CyberConnect 2, the same people who did Asura's Wrath. And I fucking love that game, man. So, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try it because it's from a dev I like. Maybe they did it well. And I'm like, oh shit, they made me like Naruto. Who'da thunk it? Next one I'm gonna recommend is Bright Memory. This game is... You know how it's pretty easy to define a game as, it's this game meets this game. I tried coming up with a simple way to kind of define this game based on other games to make it easier. I can't do it because this thing is such a hodgepodge of dozens of different genres and influences that I can't do it justice. I was going to say something like it's Doom meets Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, but that leaves out a lot of other factors to the gameplay. To put it in the simplest terms, you have guns, and you have a sword, and you can move around really quickly, you can do air combos, you can juggle people in the air, shooting, like, keeps you floating in the air, and it's... the best way I would describe it is the first-person equivalent to something like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, etc. It's a flashy, like, spectacle fighter akin to those games, but it's a first-person shooter with guns. It's super cool, and it's really cheap. Like, it's like $7-8, and it's a short game, but it's made entirely by one guy in China. And for the amount of express catharsis that you can get from this game, it is absolutely worth it. I would highly recommend it to anyone. And last, but certainly not least, One Finger Death Punch 2. Now, currently it's just a demo, but just look at this shit!
Increase the game speed manually if you're crazy.
It's too good! I don't know how to describe it, but it is amazing. At least in the demo. If the full game is anything like this, then it is a purchase day one. I am pre-ordering this shit immediately. I've been told it's going to be coming out, I believe April. Throw up a thing on the screen when it comes out. It's going to be coming out soon, and first game was also relatively cheap. In addition to that, these are all good kind of cheap options. I say this because if they're all priced similarly to what I believe they are, you could literally get Naruto game and Bright Memory and One Finger Death Punch 2 and the original all for less than the cost of Jump Force right now. And that's not to say that Jump Force is inherently a bad game, but I was disappointed by it. And I'd much rather this money go towards stuff that is of higher quality or at least higher entertainment value, given this. So please, go give it a try, have a lot of fun, because I didn't want to shit all over Jump Force. I wanted it to be good. It just wasn't. If you want to enjoy it with your friends, if you have a grand old time, if this becomes your new staple when you have friends over and you want to play a fun game, have at it. Just know that there are many areas that I think could be improved upon. Speaking of which, keep your eyes peeled on this channel, because Anthem is coming out in a couple days, and I'm going to be giving you day one impressions. I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen some of the comments on this in regards to me not giving it a fair shake because it's not the full game out and they need to give them a chance. I'm more than willing to give it a chance, but if this thing shits a bed on day one, hate to say I told you so.